All right. Howdy, folks. Wanted to make a video explaining my proficiency-based grading system because it is different than the 100-point system. It's different than the traditional percentage-based grading system, but I particularly really like it for a couple of key reasons. First, in the traditional model, we have students who do homework and do tests and do projects, and they get points for those, and those points are averaged. And so students are generally punished for not knowing something at the start of a lesson or start of a unit, right? You do a homework assignment, you get a 4 out of 10. Obviously, you're struggling, but that 4 out of 10 stays in the grade book, and your future attempts are averaged against it. Or say you don't really like that bad grade, you can do some extra credit in a traditional system to backfill in those points, right? So instead of working on this thing that you don't know, you are doing something else to show like at least you're working, but it's not necessarily in the areas that you necessarily need it. And I don't like this because grades don't always reflect learning or growth, right? Because we have that averaging, we have those extra credit opportunities, which don't necessarily always line up with our learning targets. In a proficiency based system, homework is going to be practice and maybe sometimes evidence if necessary, and it's going to be worked on and improved throughout a unit. And extra credit isn't necessary because students are going to have opportunities to do and redo assignments and assessments and show me evidence of skills in a number of ways throughout a unit. And in this way, the grades that you see in the grade book are only a reflection of a student's ability to perform a learning target. So here's what a general proficiency scale looks like. If you need to make those conversions, I've got these up here. So if you get a 1, that's essentially a D, a 2 is a C, 3 is a B, 4 is an A. And what the 1 really means is that a student is just attempting, right? They're making progress towards an initial learning of a skill, right? They've got some big holes, they've got some gaps, maybe they're struggling a little bit. And then a 2 means they're approaching that grade level standard, right? If I want them to be reading or writing at this level, means they're approaching that, but maybe they're not quite there yet. 3 is my target for all my students. That means meets the grade level standards. This is how well I want all my juniors to perform. This is what the state says juniors should perform at. This is what the district says students should perform at. That's a B. And then to get an A, you really need to kind of go above and beyond this proficiency, right? You need to understand it. You need to demonstrate it particularly well. You need to connect it to other standards or other concepts. And so here's the problem with this type of grading system is Power School does not do this well. Because the grades you're going to see in Power School are not necessarily individual assignments. They are skills that I have used practice and assessments and tests to get my general overall evaluation of a student based on this scale. And I'll show you that in just a little bit. I'm going to update these grades in Power School as we practice skills. I'm always going to want students to act on that feedback. So we're always going to have a practice before we do a formal assessment. And we're always going to have assessments before we do unit tests. So students will get at least 3 opportunities to practice and perform and demonstrate some evidence of skills before we move on. And one more note about the grades is that they're going to show up as exempt in Power School. So it's going to say this isn't calculating. And that's because I'm not actually calculating grades based on percentages and for points. I am looking at overall trends of students that generally look like this. Right. So because I have to give an overall grade, to get an A in my class, you have to have mostly A's, mostly those 4s, and then you can have some B's, right? So if you have 13 A's, 10 B's, I'm going to give the overall score based on the confluence of A's. And then to get B's, you need to have mostly A's and B's, but nothing lower than a C. C, mostly C's, B's, maybe some A's, nothing lower than a C. D's means you just completed all the course requirements. You just attempted them. Maybe you didn't do particularly well at them, but like you gave it your shot. I'm happy with that. And F, the only way you'll get an F in my class is that if you skip a learning target. And I'll show you what that looks like right here. So This is what my grade book looks like. And you can see, okay, for unit 1, we've got 1, 2, 3 learning targets. And here's how well my students fared in those learning targets, right? Mostly B's and a couple of C's here, mostly B's and C's here, a couple D's, C's, B's here. And for this student, so if we take a look at the second student here, they have mostly B's, 1A, and 2 C's. I'd look at the overall preponderance of evidence. I'd say that's a B. For this student down here, they've got a couple B's and mostly A's, so they don't have any C's, so that would be an A. And then this last student down here, they have some decent grades, some B's, some C's, proficient in some things, developing in some things, beginning in some things, but they missed these 2 critical concepts. That means they didn't do any of the practice. That means they didn't do any of the assessments. They didn't take the unit test to show me, here's what I know about these concepts. Here's where I'm at. And these are critical concepts given to us by the district saying students will practice these. They are going to have evidence. They're going to be hopefully proficient with these by the end of the semester. If I don't have any evidence of that, that's the only way that we're going to get an F. And again, we're going to have multiple opportunities to practice each one of these skills throughout a unit. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, mrrestad.com, and I've got a contact page. You can write me a message here. You can give me a call on my office number. You can email me. I'm happy to explain and go over any of this stuff with you. Thanks so much.